Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Simple Spoken English. I hope you're all doing well and excited to learn something new today. If you're someone who wants to speak English fluently, confidently, and naturally, then this lesson is for you. Today, I am going to teach you how to think in English, which is one of the most important steps to becoming a fluent English speaker. We all know how frustrating it can be when we have to stop and translate sentences from our native language into English before speaking. It slows us down, makes us feel less confident, and often leads to mistakes. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could skip that translation process and just think in English from the start? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's possible. By following 4 simple stages, you can train your brain to think directly in English. And trust me, this will make a huge difference in how you speak. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to Simple Spoken English if you haven't already. This way, you won't miss any of our lessons that will help you on your journey to speaking fluent English. Now, let's get into today's lesson. How to think in English. Stage 1. Think in verbs. The power of action words. The first stage of learning to think in English is to focus on verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. They describe what's happening. Why do we start with verbs? Because action is all around us. And if we can think about what's happening in English, we can start forming sentences in our heads more quickly. Let's take an example. Imagine you are walking through New York City, specifically in Central Park. You see people everywhere, all engaged in different activities. What are they doing? Some people are running, others are talking. You see a dog chasing a ball, and someone is feeding pigeons. These actions are described using verbs: run, talk, chase, feed. By observing the actions around you, you can start thinking about them in English. This process of observing and identifying actions is something you can do anywhere. Whether you're standing at a bus stop in London, waiting at a traffic light, or sitting in a cafe in Paris, there are always actions happening around you. For example, on a busy street in Tokyo, you might see people walking quickly, someone riding a bicycle, or a group of friends laughing. You can mentally note these actions in English. Walk, ride, laugh. But what if you're at home, where there's not much happening? You can still practice thinking in verbs by imagining scenarios or using pictures. For instance, look at a photo of a family picnic. What actions do you see? Maybe they are eating, playing, or relaxing. Even when you're indoors, you can practice identifying actions by thinking about what you might do in different situations. Imagine you're in your kitchen. You might be cooking, cleaning, or washing dishes. Key practice tip. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes each day to practice thinking in verbs. Pick a different place each day and focus on the actions happening around you. As you do this regularly, you'll train your brain to think about actions in English, making it easier to describe what's happening in the moment. Stage 2. Think in nouns, naming the world around you. Once you've practiced thinking in verbs, it's time to move on to nouns. Nouns are words that name people, places, things, or ideas. Just like verbs, nouns are everywhere. Everything around you has a name, and if you can think of these names in English, you'll be one step closer to thinking and speaking fluently. Let's take an example from a different city. Imagine you're in Sydney, Australia, standing by the famous Sydney Opera House. As you look around, you see the building, the harbor, and many tourists taking photos. You also see a boat in the water and a few seagulls flying above. Each of these things is a noun. Building, harbor, tourists, boat, seagulls. It's important to practice thinking in nouns wherever you are. If you're at a market in Delhi, India, you might see fruits, vegetables, spices, and vendors. These are all nouns that describe the objects and people around you. Even if you're just sitting in your room, you can look around and identify nouns. For example, you might see a table, a chair, a book, and a laptop. Another great way to practice thinking in nouns is to describe what you're carrying with you. What's in your bag? Maybe you have a phone, some keys, and a wallet. If you practice naming these objects in English, it will soon become second nature. Over time, this will help you think faster and more clearly in English. Key practice tip. Spend a few minutes each day naming the objects around you in English. Whether you're outside, at home, or even traveling, challenge yourself to identify everything in English. For instance, if you're visiting Barcelona, Spain, look around and name things like buildings, bicycles, cafes, and tourists. The more you practice this, the more your brain will automatically think in English. Stage 3. Think in sentences, connecting verbs and nouns. Once you're comfortable thinking in verbs and nouns, it's time to move on to the next step, thinking in sentences. This is where you start putting verbs and nouns together to describe what's happening around you in full sentences. At this stage, it's important to start simple. Don't worry about making long, complicated sentences. Just focus on creating short, clear sentences that describe what you see. For example, if you're in Cape Town, South Africa, looking at Table Mountain, you might say, "The tourists are climbing the mountain. The sun is shining. The wind is blowing. These are simple, but they allow you to practice thinking in complete sentences. Now, let's imagine you're in Toronto, Canada, sitting in a park. What's happening around you? You could describe the scene like this. A family is having a picnic. The children are playing with a ball. The birds are flying in the sky. These sentences are short, but they effectively describe what's happening around you. As you become more comfortable, you can start making your sentences longer. For example, if you're in Berlin, Germany, walking near the Brandenburg Gate, you might say, "A group of tourists is taking pictures of the monument."